Hello, I hope you're doing well. I'm going to have my slideshow right here. You might not be able to read it all the time, so I'm obviously going to send it to you. And if you prefer to follow along there, then be my guest. That probably might work better. I have my timer here. I'm going to start my timer at 20 seconds into this video to that 7 to 10 mark. Here we go. So, hello, and today I'm going to be pitching a movie in hopes that everyone can find this as interesting as I do and hopefully give me some funding so that I can go out and make this movie, make an investment to find all the cast members and materials to make this movie a success. My movie will be called The Fire Inside. It'll be a modern take on Shakespeare's The Tempest by me, Jack Cardwell. So, we'll start with a brief overview of the original story. So obviously, Prospero, who was the Duke of Milan, was banished to an island that no one knows the whereabouts of. He ends up learning magic while on the island, and he conjures up a storm to sink a boat and bring all of his past delegates, even his brother, to the island in the night, but scatters them all throughout the island. But he keeps them safe, and eventually, a bunch of events like love scenes and murder plots and all sorts of humor and funny scenes happen, and the characters all end up back together. Amends are made, which is the important part, and all the characters leave, and Prospero regains his status. They leave the island, and the island is returned to Caliban, who was originally there before Prospero. So now our characters will, for the most part, remain the same. Prospero, however, he's going to be a wealthy man. He is respected and a strong character, strong-willed. Miranda is pretty much the same. She's innocent, pure, and loving. She's still very young-natured, like very innocent, a little bit immature. Caliban, however, is going to be elusive in this story. You're not going to see much of Caliban, but you're going to know he's there, and Prospero is for sure going to know he's there. He's still determined to get his island back to his own. And then Ferdinand is still going to be loyal and protective of Miranda. The setting and time of my story. So it's going to be broken into 3 acts, much like the original story was broken into acts. However, the biggest change of our story and my movie mine will be set in modern times. So what this means is, instead of a boat crash, it's going to be a plane crash. The other important thing is Miranda and Ferdinand are already married. They're on their way back from their wedding, and Prospero is on his private jet. He said he was wealthy. And there's a pilot on board as well. So it's 4 people total. And a storm forms during the night of their wedding, and on their way back, the plane unfortunately crashes in the night. It kind of scatters them. Prospero loses Miranda and Ferdinand. He doesn't know where they all went. And what happens is Prospero gets washed up on the island rather than all of his delegates like the original. So the first act will take place on a clearing on a plateau. So it'll be where Prospero sets up camp pretty much. And around it will be trees on this big hill plateau type of terrain. The second act will take place in a cave, and then the third act will be both. So the plot for Act 1, obviously, it starts with a plane crash. Prospero on flight returning from Miranda's and Ferdinand's wedding, and he lands ashore in the night, like I said, without anyone on the plane, so he lands alone, comes ashore alone. He builds a shelter on the island, on that plateau, like I said, and he lives there for almost like 14 months, and he's determined, like his character trait. He wants to live. He wants to make it off this island. He displays help on the beach with rocks, like one of those corny movies when we were growing up. But desperate times call for desperate measures. So he does that on the beach, but he really just takes this chance to live and push through and keep going, because he's determined to get back to and find his Miranda and his new son-in-law. So he builds that shelter. He survives, lives off the island, gains all these survival skills, but being strong-willed and physically strong has helped him along greatly. However, after that 14 months, in plot in Act 2, he's out having a fire one night, and in the tree line he hears great rustling, and he sees red eyes that are beaming at him that terrify him, absolutely terrify him. So he leaves his shelter and he retreats down the plateau, down the hill, and he finds a cave and he resides there for the foreseeable future, and he doesn't plan on getting out. He lives in constant fear of this monster that he saw, and the monster ends up coming to him in dreams as he has night terrors, and the monster informs him that his name is Caliban and he wants his island back. He doesn't want Prospero there, and this just absolutely terrifies Prospero. He only goes out during the high noon day, and during one of those days he actually reunites with Miranda and Ferdinand. Miranda still has the red bow in her hair from the wedding. Ferdinand still has his red tie from the wedding, and they catch up. They ended up surviving on a different region of the island, and because they were all washed ashore in the night like that. And he's overjoyed, but he warns Ferdinand and Miranda of the looming danger of Caliban and his glowing red eyes. And he lives in this cave, but Miranda and Ferdinand end up setting up camp outside of the cave because they don't share the same fear that Prospero does. They don't believe him. They don't believe that they don't hear the howling at night. They don't hear the great screeches from Caliban that absolutely terrify Prospero. And again, they want their privacy. They don't want to be living inside this small, dense, dark cave with their father-in-law and father as their newlyweds, right? So the pilot ends up being found as well. He has a blood stain all down his shirt from the night they crashed, but he ended up making it out too and surviving. And now he sets up camp outside the cave as well. So Act 3, 16 months after the crash, 2 months after he retreats to the cave, Prospero just becomes increasingly more and more irrational. He starts trembling and shaking. He fears that the monster's coming closer, Caliban. He fears that the monster is getting sick of him being there and is going to attack him soon. So he ends up like not really going outside the cave, and he just shakes and shakes all day with fear. However, one day he hears the sounds and noises from outside just get increasingly louder and more terrifying, and Miranda and Ferdinand and the pilot end up coming into the cave and dragging him out, saying, "You have to see this." And he's unsure of what they're doing, and all he wants to do is go back into the cave, but he ends up following them and running up to the clearing, which he was so afraid of. And the whole time he has his eyes closed, he's pushing through this fear because Miranda and Ferdinand are obviously encouraging him to do this, and against his will. And eventually he finds out that it was a helicopter. The helicopter was coming down, landed in the clearing, and saves Prospero. There's a twist though. Miranda, Ferdinand, and the pilot all passed on impact on the plane. And Prospero saw this and was just absolutely sickened by it. He couldn't believe it, and he ended up imagining all those people were still alive. And when he was alone on the helicopter, that's when it really hit him that Miranda, Ferdinand, and the pilot were all gone, and he was the only one left, and that they were just merely a figment of his imagination. The red resembles the death and the effects of his imagination. So the red eyes of Caliban, the red tie, the blood stain, and the bow all indicate that they were actually dead and part of his imagination. Some themes in this movie: the danger of the human mind and its capabilities under distress, the great effect negative thoughts and stress can have on our mental health, isolation and grief. All these things can have terrible effects on our mind, and it is very evident in this story. Brief style points I want to touch on. So whenever Caliban is on the screen, you won't see him very clearly. It'll be blurred to depict like the vision that Prospero is having, and all other aspects of the film will be traditional. Now, these films, I like to compare them to. This will be a great investment for you because all of these films have done great. These are films that are mentally focused but have nice little twists at the end. Sixth Sense, $673 million in 1999, second only to The Phantom Menace. Shutter Island, $295 million, and Fight Club, $100 million. All these movies, very mental focus with grief and isolation, and then with nice little twists at the end. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to have this movie pitched to you, and really appreciate the time that you have given to me. Thank you so much.